Therapist perception.
Bachelorette. Hello and welcome back to Reactivity TV. I'm Amy Albero and I'm a licensed therapist.
I am Chris. I'm not a licensed therapist, but I have opinions and there's a lot of things to have opinions about on this episode. So here I am.
Yes, we are going to get into your opinions, my therapist reactions to Bachelor in Paradise Season 9, Episode 7. But before we jump in, please remember to hit that like button at the bottom of this video and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I know I say this every time, but it is such a small thing that actually goes a long way. And we've been really, really appreciating the likes, the comments, the subscribes. So keep them coming.
Yeah, and also please make sure to hit that bell icon so that you're alerted anytime we post new content to the channel.
All right, let's do this.
Yeah. So Kat apparently has been going on. Somebody described it as an apology tour. So I went and searched out some content, and that is the weirdest apology tour I've ever seen. It felt more like a peace tour. There didn't seem to be a lot of accountability for her actions. It was really more just cries of, hey, we're all human, leave me alone. So I have a lot of thoughts about this, but the first thought I want to just get out there is that don't do that. Cut that out. These are real people and you don't have to like everybody, but at the end of the day, you know what? It's never okay to go harass somebody in real life. You're not in their life. You're not in their shoes. So let's just cut that out. That being said, Kat, like you kind of made your bed, so you're going to get the edit that you get, and you're going to kind of have the people feel the way they feel about you. And I don't think she necessarily did herself any justice in not taking any accountability or any ownership. Not okay for anybody to be harassing her in real life. Leave her alone, everybody. But at the same time, I think it's okay and perfectly within bounds for us to think relatively low of her. Your thoughts?
Okay, so I saw none of the content around her. What did you call it? A peace tour?
It was described to me as an apology tour, or described out there, but I view it more as a calling for peace, or really
like a ceasefire,
like leave me alone. Like, yeah, please stop taking shots at me.
Yeah, so I know literally nothing about any of that. I can imagine that she is getting a lot of hate and like trolls in her comments. And I mean, that's why we start off the beginning season of Reactivity TV, whenever we're talking about reality TV, with a disclaimer that we're only commenting on what we see on TV. We understand that this is just such a fraction of the whole person. We're seeing very, very specifically chosen edited clips. And so while Kat is painted as a villain, and I've been very critical of her, what I'm referring to is the portrayal on TV. I have no idea how she is in real life. I hope that she is different, but regardless, like as you said, she is still a real person, and yeah, she has feelings. She gets affected by this stuff, and like internet bullying is not cool.
Yeah. Staying on that topic though, and transitioning over to the charity Aaron B. Eliza thing, we get a little bit more content into that, and as it turns out, we've got one of these sort of toxic fandom type situations where the story now appears to be that Aaron B's ex-girlfriend that he broke up with in August, which is several months before the season of Charity, when the filming of Charity season happened, she has sent off more than 100 text messages and emails to not just Charity, but Charity's friends and family. So this is a great example of what not to do, people. If you are the ex of somebody out there, just leave them alone. I think it says more about you than it does about them.
Right. It definitely calls the credibility into question, for sure.
Not just credibility, but it's also just, what is your motivation?
Right. It's like a smear campaign.
It's a smear campaign, but also like, it goes back to what you've said a couple of times here. Water your own damn grass, people. It's an ex for a reason. I understand if somebody hurt you. I understand if you have questions about why a relationship ended, but this is not a way to get resolution, and this is not a way to get vengeance, so to speak. All you're doing is taking up a lot of your own time, when you could be, I don't know, maybe going and seeing a therapist to get through it. That's probably a better use of the time. Than sending off 100 emails to a bunch of people that ultimately don't care about you and probably ultimately are also not going to listen to you. So, yeah, I thought that was a nice way to kind of kind of roll into this episode nice and upbeat.
Well, the other thing, I mean, speaking of like the fandom and kind of the external community that is in the show, Aaron references in this conversation with Charity that the ex actually never contacted him at all. And the only reason he knew that this was going on was because of a Reddit thread around this. And so people were talking about this and about the ex and Aaron and all of that stuff. But Aaron was never confronted directly about it, which I find fascinating and at the same time kind of not surprising given the context.
Yeah, exactly. I actually think that's quite telling. But this rolls us directly into one of my big criticisms here in this episode of Charity. I was very critical of her last episode. We all know that. And because I thought this whole trust but verify, validate some data, I felt like she sort of smeared Aaron B and didn't necessarily validate. Well, now we found out the information. Like, this is clearly somebody who had an agenda, clearly somebody who you got to be a little bit off your rocker to send off hundreds of messages to a person on TV and their friends and their family. I don't even know how you'd go about getting information on these people for contacting them. But she managed it. That automatically should have been a red flag that there was something up. And yet Charity still proceeded to go on and apparently still warn other girls about him. I thought it was really interesting in how she got the edit, whereas last week I thought her edit was really bad. This week they tried to give her like a better edit, like, oh, no, here's the real story. But the problem was it was only, I feel like, a surface level, deep, positive edit. The slightest pinprick at it, kind of continues to demonstrate that she's really the one in the wrong here. She was the one who gathered and was given information, didn't validate it, and then spread those rumors around. And then she kind of comes in on a white horse as a savior to save Aaron B's relationship. I was really turned off by the entire thing. And what really struck me was when she does pull Aaron B during the episode and they have a conversation. Aaron B was great during the conversation. He tried to articulate it, fairly concise, way better than he did with Eliza, in the last episode. But then, Charity is the one who's basically like getting the apologies. She's the one who's like giving the advice. And I was like, where land am I in? Charity, you're the one who's been in the wrong here, literally across the entire stretch of this. Why are you the one giving the advice? And why are you the one getting the apologies?
Yeah, I mean, this references what my thorn was in the A side of Reactivity TV when we were talking about the Golden Bachelor and the Women Tell All. In that the Bachelor, the Bachelorette, the lead gets put on this pedestal for no other reason than they were cast as the lead. It does not make the lead an expert in anything. And yet, like, there is all this fawning toward the lead and deference to the lead no matter what.
Yeah, and Eliza asks her specifically some, advice about how to like deal with confrontation and that type of stuff. And again, I kind of chuckled a little bit and was like, this is somebody who just literally demonstrated an inability to appropriately handle confrontation, did the exact wrong thing, and you're asking her advice.
Yeah.
It was crazy to me seeing that entire thing.
Yeah, no, I get that. But one thing that I just want to go back to in terms of your criticism of Charity, we're connecting a lot of dots that we don't necessarily know, like, get connected. What we do know are a couple of things. One, Charity has been cheated on in the past. And so she is highly sensitive to information about someone that she's dating that gives a red flag about trustworthiness. And so it makes sense that she would feel a little more heightened or triggered by getting information that feels like what she knows about someone is contrary to what she's now hearing. So it makes sense that that would activate her or trigger her. I can also imagine if Charity is actually friends with these girls from her season, from Zach's season, which it seems like is legitimate that she would be, it wouldn't shock me if just being, girl to girl, can you believe this happened? Or like just kind of in sharing information about like, I'm getting these texts, these like DMs from this ex-girlfriend. Like I feel I could also imagine her saying like, I don't know, he comes with a lot of baggage. Like I could see that just being a natural girl chat that you would have with your girlfriends about just some crazy shit that's going on. Like how many times have I talked with my girlfriends about the fact that my ex-boyfriend still gets in touch with me? Like, and I'm not trying to be malicious. It's more me trying to like vent and process all of that stuff. And so in the same way that like we're both saying, why is Charity put on a pedestal? I also think we can't put her on a pedestal here either. She's just a woman with female friends that she's having female chats with, or just friend chats with. And so I don't, what they do with that information or how they interpret that information is completely up to them and up to their discretion. Maybe they ran with something, but we don't know for a fact that Charity flat out said, this guy is trouble. He's bad news. Stay away. Who told us that? Kat? We want to trust Kat? I don't know.
No, that's all fair. So I have one other kind of question on this specific topic. You and Charity share a field. You're both in the same, therapy counseling field. We saw her, at the end of last episode, the beginning of this episode, we saw her in sort of a role of advice giver and, with Eliza specifically. Do you think that this was a good reflection on, say, the bedside manner of therapy? Is this what somebody can expect coming to therapy? What are your take as a therapist looking at somebody who conducts therapy? Give me your thoughts.
Okay, so I'm glad you asked this question, because this was my big frustration in watching Charity season, was that people were going in on Charity in the way that she was handling certain things because she's a therapist. And I have to say, yes, I'm a therapist. It's a big part of my identity. It's more than a career for me. But like, I simply cannot be held to the standard of being a therapist at all times when I'm with you, when I'm with my friends, and so I think it's unfair. I think it's such an unfair standard to hold a therapist to being a therapist at all times, especially when they're not on the clock. And as someone who is actively fighting burnout right now, I resent that comment. Because again, we deserve to just be able to interact and engage as all of you other plebes do, and so I kind of I'm frustrated by that question. So no, I don't, it does not reflect bedside manner of a therapist, nor should it.
So to make a nice concise summation of that, if you were to visit Charity as a therapist, you can assume that or any therapist, that is not what you can expect when you get into the room.
Yes, she was not in a therapy session at that time. So no, that is not what therapy looks like. That is not how, you might get facets of Charity's personality if you were her client, but no, that is not what to expect from therapy at all. Neither is this, by the way. Neither is this. While there are parts of my personality as a therapist that come out here, this is not therapy.
I just wanted to make sure. I don't want to scare clients away.
What else you got?
I got one more, and then we can actually get into the stuff that we were scheduled to talk about. Did you know that Tanner apparently was the wild card? Because I had no idea. I was like, wait, what?
Tanner's the Bachelor of Paradise.
When did that happen? I was like, did I miss an episode? What happened?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thoughts?
Yeah, no, that threw me. It seemed like Tanner and Davia were in, but as I've been saying, Tanner is an uncomplicated dude. I could see him not wanting to have any strings attached. What did he say to Rachel? When I was watching this episode this morning with you, I was very, very clearly reacting to the fact that he made her no promises when giving her this rose. He is smart. He knows how to play the game. We can save that later for grade the game. But yeah, that was a shock to me in some way, because I just thought he and Davia were a lock. But again, Tanner, uncomplicated.
I do like that we're finally getting a little more of his personality. He's starting to speak a little more. So yeah, I do like that. But yeah, when I forget who was narrating that section, when they said, "Oh yeah, Tanner's like the wild card. He's the one that's got the available rose." I was like, when did that happen? What?
Probably Peter, because he's apparently the new narrator now.
Yeah, I don't think he's very good. Did you see his Chiron? His Chiron was the only narrator available.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how that happened, but
because yeah. Olivia was busy.
Olivia, yeah, exactly right.
I just want to take a quick pause to tell you that Revive is hiring. In our Miami and Pittsburgh offices, we have full and part-time W-2 and 1099 clinician positions available, and this includes both postgraduate and associate level licenses, in addition to fully licensed clinicians. In our Connecticut offices, we have full-time, fully licensed W-2 clinician positions available, including clinical supervisor opportunities. If you are interested in working for a company that values community, work-life balance, and your personal and professional growth, then we want to meet you. Find a link to our website in our bio.
shall we get into the actual stuff we wanted to talk about today?
Yes. Well, how about we first close the loop on what happens with Aaron and Eliza?
Yeah, I agree.
So Charity has a chat with Aaron. They seem to kind of make some peace. They end nicely. And then Aaron and Eliza chat. And Aaron is pretty vulnerable with her and says, I really want to be exclusive with you. And I want to be nothing but like open and honest. I don't want to avoid anything with you in terms of transparency. And I want to be upfront with my feelings for you. And Eliza basically receives that and says, like, that's a nice declaration. But I think we should take it slow. And something that I just want to notice about Eliza is that she is so fearful of getting hurt. And she says that a little bit later in the episode, that she's really afraid of being hurt, of being embarrassed. And here's what I just want to say is that it's normal and natural to feel afraid when you are entering into a relationship. And the reality is that most relationships don't work out. And in order to get to a relationship that is successful, you do need to take a risk. That's a huge part of being in a relationship or dating in order to, find a partner, is that you will swing and miss. And it seems like Eliza's really just worried about even getting up to bat. And, it seems like she will at some point begin to do that, but she's fearful of getting hurt. And as a result is not even letting herself take a chance.
Yeah, I mean, I find her to be somewhat emotionally fragile, and I think that's problematic. In many ways, I sort of wrote down, like, if I had to like name this episode, it would have basically been like, season of the simps, because between Blake and between Aaron B, they're kind of a bit pathetic characters right now, because they are just basically doling all of these compliments and all these declarations onto these two women. And in the case of Blake and Jess doesn't want you, dude, right? She just wants the attention. And in the case of Eliza, she is not in an emotional place or a place mentally where she's capable of really accepting that, because she's just, she has such trust issues that don't necessarily have anything to do with Aaron B.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just, these two guys just keep putting so much effort into these two women. And these two women are, quite frankly, one doesn't want him and the other one is not in a place to receive that type, in my opinion, which is too bad, because, Aaron B, I don't really particularly like Aaron B. I didn't like him from the first few episodes. I don't dislike him, but I just, like, I got concerns about him. He's growing on me as he gets a better edit. Whereas Eliza, I think she's got a lot of growing up to do before she's really ready for a committed relationship. But I guess my one takeaway from this whole thing is, thank God it's done. I hope they go back to being boring and we just don't have to see him anymore, because this entire thing with the Charity, that it was all made up. I said it last episode. It was all made up drama. None of it. Charity should have just killed it right then and there. Eliza could have heard this information, been like, yep, yeah, it sounds like a nothing to me.
Mm-hmm.
And they all could have just moved on. But then production would have had to come up with something else. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. And so which couple should we move to next?
I already kind of talked about Blake and Jess, so let's just go there, because I think this can be relatively quick. I want to say 5 things to you, and I want you to tell me your response. Okay. I missed your compliments. I missed you looking at me. I missed dressing up for you. I missed dressing up and you complimenting my outfits. I missed how I feel when you touch me. I missed how I feel when you are around me. What are your thoughts on that?
It's giving Gary.
It's giving Gary Turner. Are these the 5 most selfish things we've heard out of Jess's mouth? Like, not one of those things spoke about Blake. Not one of those things talked about their relationship. Every single thing of it.
It's giving, I want a boyfriend.
I want a boyfriend and I want attention. Not like, and Blake was like happy to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Blake, dude, she's not into you. She's into the compliments you give her. She just, when somebody tells you who they are, listen to them. Jess has told you she's not into you. She told you last time. The second the affection was gone, suddenly she comes running back to you. And the 5 things she says to you are nothing about you. It's all about, basically compliments that she's getting from you. Dude, I don't know what you're doing. You know, that Jen girl seemed nice enough, a little boring, but not any more boring than Jess. So like, I think he made the wrong call here. But he goes right back to Jess. They have a conversation.
Was that the first time we see them kiss ever?
I think it was, yeah. So Jen and Blake get back late in the evening before the day of the rose ceremony. So they basically do not see each other until the rose ceremony cocktail hour.
Is that right? I was so screwed up with timing. So they were the night that Charity was on the beach was the same day as their date.
Yeah, I believe that's correct. Yes.
Okay. And so what you're saying is that the day after Charity's arrival was the rose ceremony
Correct.
day?
Yes.
Okay.
And so they basically went almost 2 full days without seeing each other. And he had a date in there.
Okay.
At least that's the way it was edited. I mean, who knows what happened in reality? You know, maybe they had some time together, you know, but we didn't really see that. So, you know, basically he pulls her, they have a conversation, and he basically, and this is what really annoyed me, Blake. Okay, so he pulls Jess and immediately tells her, "You're my number one. I'm all in on you. I'm done." Like, Jen is not a thing. Blake, you didn't break up with her or, you know, cause the rift with her. She caused it with you. It was her responsibility to initiate that conversation. It was her. The onus was on her to tell you she wants you. And so he basically gave all of his leverage away immediately. Not that there's necessarily a point, but he gave all of his leverage away, said, "I'm all in on you," gave her exactly what she wanted. She then, lays in these 5 selfish comments to him. He eats it up, and Jen goes home, and Jess gets his rose. I was so angry at Blake because I think he just demonstrated bad judgment across this entire episode with respect to, one, lack of awareness about the fact that the girl he's with is not interested in him. 2, just sort of a lack of maturity. And 3, really demonstrated a failure in just basic dating skills, I thought.
I have a slightly different opinion. I'm with you on the Jess side of things. That's like, again, we talk about this repeatedly on part A with the Golden Bachelor, in that the way that Jess is communicating with Blake is from a selfish view of love or lust or like. With Blake, I mean, I hear you talking about leverage. I can appreciate Blake just being very open, just being very transparent about where he is, whatever. He doesn't have anything to lose. He has the rose tonight. So, what does he need leverage for? She's got nobody else.
Well, but she gets a rose next week, and he needs production in his corner. Production threw Jen down there, and he basically batted her away. Now, what is production going to do if they decide they want to? Is he so interesting that production wants to keep him around? No. And Jess is still looking to jump ship. I will point out, do we forget that the entire Tyler scene from last week? That seems to have completely disappeared. Tyler's suddenly all in on Mercedes, and there's 100% she's getting the rose.
Well, as Mercedes says, kissing someone else doesn't mean anything until it means anything on the beach. So,
you know what I mean? And I was like, no, I don't know what you mean at all. I have no idea what that statement meant. But yeah, so I don't know, maybe Mercedes knows about the kiss and doesn't care. But it's like the next time that Blake is off somewhere and somebody gives, Jess 10 seconds worth of attention, she's making out with somebody else. Come on.
I don't know. I mean, listen, here's the thing. They are on this beach, as Olivia would say, 25/8. And
it's not how math works either. A lot of bad math this week.
They have thousands of hours.
That's not how math works either.
25 times 3 weeks, 25 hours a day times 24 hours a day times 7 days a week is how many hours?
So 24, just assume 25 for a second, which means you have 175 minus 7 hours. So you have 100 and why?
Go ahead.
So it's about 168 hours a week. I think that's right. 168 hours a week
times 3
times
weeks.
3.
Okay. All right. So not quite 1,000 hours, hundreds of hours of content. And we're only seeing, I mean, it feels like a fucking lot to us being an hour and 20 minutes every week. But think about that. We're only getting 80 minutes a week amongst over 500 hours a week. And so who knows? Maybe there's more to this Blake and Jess situation than we get to see.
Production wants our attention.
Listen,
They'll show us anything juicy.
I'm still shell shocked by what happened on Golden Bachelor, that I now do not trust myself. I do not trust anything that I'm seeing, because the edit is powerful. So I'm here to say, like, whatever you put in front of me, I don't know. I don't know anymore. So for all we know, Jess and Blake have had this deep love story the entire time, and we've just not seen it.
Yeah, we'll go with that. All right. So anything you want to talk about with Blake and Jess?
No, I mean, it does look like in previews for next week, Katie, his ex-fiance, former bachelorette, comes down. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I'm stay tuned next week, because I saw one scene with Katie in her season, and that one scene solidified my entire opinion of her. And I believe I am right. And I believe I was proven out to be right. And you thought I was being a little bit critical when I said that. So stay tuned for next week for what that hot take was back then that proved out to be correct.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's fast forward to the day of the rose ceremony. We have what feels like the longest cocktail party ever. And that's where a lot of things get shaken up this week. So let's do quick hits first. Becca arrives at the cocktail party, and when it's time for the rose ceremony, she is mysteriously gone.
Which is sad, because she was wearing the prettiest dress of all the girls, I thought. I love that dress.
She did have a pretty dress on. And Jessie goes to find her, and she's basically like, I have my doubts with Brayden, so I'm leaving.
Well, it was, other people have been critical of how strong my relationship is, and so it's causing me to doubt, and now I'm self-eliminating. But here's my question to you. That was all bullshit, right? Like, this had to have been her own anxiety, right? I mean,
who knows? I mean, it could have been, I mean, that those two things aren't mutually exclusive, right? So I don't know, maybe we'll learn more on the finale episode, who knows? But I feel frustrated as a viewer with the casting that they wasted a spot on the beach for someone that self-eliminated when she was going to get a rose. Yeah, in one day. So that's pretty frustrating. It's the same as like Susie from last year, the one whose luggage made it to the beach and all that stuff. So it's just frustrating on casting's end that they, like, you know, picked somebody that wasn't going to stick around. So long story short, she self-eliminates, leaving Brayden with an open rose.
And did you notice right away the first thing that happened, which I thought that was fascinating? Tanner leans over and says, who are you giving your rose to? Because apparently he's now the wild card. And now Brayden is effectively a wild card, because, you know, I mean, I assumed that him and Rachel still had a good relationship, but she seems pretty upset. Even though, you know, we had talked last time, it seems like they had an agreement, an arrangement, and they understood that this would probably happen. But there was definitely more of a thorny sort of relationship there this week, which I didn't quite understand in relation to last week. But it seemed like Rachel getting the rose was maybe off the board.
That's what it seemed like to me. And it's so, I think the mind fuck of it all is, as you're saying, last week, but really what we're saying is yesterday. And so that's like what is so wild, how quickly things do change on the beach. So that's like a little side plot, is that Becca leaves Brayden with a rose that's up for grabs. Tanner apparently is a free agent, and that was news to both of us. We're like, wait, Davia, no?
He kissed every girl on that beach in that cocktail hour. I mean, literally just lined them up, pucker up, ladies, and just walked down the beach and kissed them all. I was blown away. I was like, dude, you cannot survive this one, you know, with a good edit. And he did somehow.
Get it, Tanner. That was great. And one of the women was Rachel. And I know last week, was it last week? I think I had said, oh yeah, when we were talking about like Rachel potentially self-eliminating, that I don't really feel like there are men on this beach for Rachel. And if there was a man that I feel like I could see her with, it would be Tanner.
Really? I can't picture Tanner's girl. I just can't picture who is good for him.
Well, he's also whatever the female equivalent of homie hopping is.
Oh yeah.
So he's moved around a lot. It's unclear, but I get it.
It's the same word minus the MIE.
don't think so. But anyway, so they exchange what Tanner calls a makeout. And
No tongue.
well, listen, I don't want to jump on that bandwagon that Kat started. Okay. I don't want to.
There's evidence is mounting. We saw him kiss every girl on that beach, and not one time did we see any tongue.
But you know what? We wouldn't have ever paid attention if Kat didn't make it such a big deal.
We've been very critical of people's bad kissing throughout the entirety of both side A and side B.
Okay, that's fair. So
because we're such great kissers, and so we notice when somebody's a bad kisser, right?
So he ultimately spends, time with Rachel, and it seems unclear going into the rose ceremony who he's going to pick, but like pretty clear that it was going to be Rachel. So I'm happy about that. I don't think, as I alluded to earlier, he made her no promises in giving the rose. Who knows what's going to happen?
I'll be honest, Rachel's perfectly fine, but I don't think she's really adding anything to this season. So as somebody who's new to the franchise, who doesn't come with the baggage of feelings from characters from previous seasons and what have you, I just would have preferred Davia, who I think is just more interesting, to stick around. As I said, I don't mind Becca self-eliminating in many ways because we got nothing from her, which is probably why we got nothing. Production was really stingy with showing us anything and wasting any screen time on her. It also probably explains why we got nothing from Jen last week as well. Production already knew that they were only going to be night oneers, so like they didn't even bother. In hindsight, I'd love to see some statistics on that if we can use that in the future to kind of guess who's going to go home. But Davia is actually really like an interesting personality. I think she adds more in terms of the dynamics on the beach than a Rachel would. So I would have liked to have seen Davia stick around.
I mean, I like Davia a lot, but I was very critical of Rachel on Clayton's season. I was critical of her when she was the Bachelorette. I am warming to Rachel. I really feel I've grown in my empathy for Rachel so much. I think a lot of it has to do with her own growing up and her maturity, but like I really, really hope that she like finds love. I mean, and she'll be fine. Like I'm not worried about her by any means, but like I'm like really, really wanting her to. I like really care that she like lands with someone who makes her happy. And that was not that I wished ill on her by any means, but like I was indifferent before, and now I feel for her. So anyway, central plot of yet again another episode is Kat. But specifically in this episode, central plot of the rose ceremony is the continuation of the John Henry, Kat, Olivia love triangle. And Olivia is very, very overt about her feelings about John Henry, how into John Henry she is, and how frustrated she feels by Kat kind of pursuing John Henry despite so openly, despite the fact that she and John Henry have been exploring things. While Olivia is off to the side somewhere, there's a truth box reading, and one of the truth box notes is meet me in the hot tub at midnight, John Henry, and it's from Kat. And so Kat orchestrates a make out with tongue with John Henry, and John Henry ends up choosing Kat for his rose recipient for the evening. What did you think of how that all went down?
Okay, so I got a couple of important thoughts. The first is the truth box was one of these contrivances that I absolutely hate. Like, this truth box can be opened up any single time. Like, there's just production nonsense to sit there and say like, oh, we're just going to happen this open up and come meet me tonight at midnight. It's like, that was just Wells in production, just working with Kat to make this thing happen. And I hate when we feel the hand of the author or hand of production too hard. And this was just one of those times. So it was a turnoff for me because as a writer of a plot, your hand should be invisible as much as possible. And so I hate these contrivances. That being said, John Henry was not picking Olivia all day. And it was so apparent from the entire episode. I had talked last episode. I hope that he make the right decision, and the edit left it a little ambiguous. But as I watch, as a man watching another man interact with a woman, he had moved on from Olivia. Little things like when they're on the bed talking, the way he's not
Olivia and John Henry.
Yeah, what'd I say?
You didn't say anybody.
Oh, Olivia, John Henry. Yeah, the way that John Henry was like failing to look at her, make any sort of eye contact when he's trying to have like difficult conversations, was something that was pretty apparent to me. Just the way he was interacting, asking Kat to go down to the beach with him, the amount of time he was spending with Kat relative to Olivia. It was so apparent to a male watching, this show, that he was not, he had moved on from Olivia, and Olivia was dead in the water. I respect her for still shooting her shot and trying to claw back, and get him back. But like he was, by the time she realized that there was a problem, he had already moved on. And that's just the truth. And this goes back to things I've said in the past, like, men don't multitask well at all. And there's a lot of, biological and anthropological reasons why we don't multitask well. But yeah, he wasn't juggling the two of them. Once he had converted his attention to Kat, his attention converted fully to Kat, and that's just it. And Olivia was out. And sometimes it can happen that fast. That being said, I agree with Olivia's statement last week. John Henry, you're an idiot. You're a handsome idiot, but you're an idiot. And he chose wrong. And is what it is. We'll see what happens. But I'm gonna go off on a limb and say that they're not leaving Paradise together. Just a prediction. I don't know anything. Don't place any Vegas bets based on that. I'm just saying. I'm suspecting that they're not gonna make it. What do you think? Am I too critical?
Well, one thing that keeps blowing my mind is that John Henry has said at least twice in this episode, I can see us most outside of here. And it's like, doing what? Like, she, as Olivia said, Kat, you work and play in the ocean, in the sand, with creatures coming up to you. Those are all things that Kat hates. What did he say last week to Kat? If I have a boy, I want to teach him like motocross. And Kat, do you even know what that is? Like,
you get very muddy and very dirty doing that.
So it's like, in what way do you see this working outside of here? Which only means that Kat is chameleoning in order to appear as though she has interest in these outdoorsy things, when push will come to shove and she actually has to do it, and she's going to hate it. I had said this while we were watching, like, she is like a black widow. She like lures them in and then and then kills them
and eats their bodies and heads. Yeah. So that of course leaves Olivia with no rose. Other quick things before we get to the stuff. We'll just go down the quick list. Obviously, Avon goes with Kylie. They're locked in. They're leaving Paradise together. Aaron B gives it to Eliza. They have made up. They have a conversation during the cocktail hour. I thought it was a little bit of a weak conversation where Eliza was sort of trying to hedge her bets, but we've already talked about why we think that is. So we don't have to go into it too much here. Peter and Sam, they're still kind of locked in. I've said it before. I don't know who's grabbing Sam or Peter. I think they're just going to roll together the entire way, because I don't think there really is somebody else for either one of them.
Yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, if it works for both of them to just like ride out a couple weeks on the beach and get paid for it, then like, why not just take it to the last episode when Jesse basically will say like, all right, tomorrow's engagements, figure it out. They'll leave at that point together. Like, yeah, do it.
I actually still don't know. We'll have to talk about that. I don't actually know how Paradise ends. Like what
with engagement.
No, I understand, but mechanically, we'll talk about that. Maybe as it gets closer. But I don't actually know what the protocol is. I've never seen one of these. So then Blake goes with Jess. We've already talked about that. Tanner goes with Rachel. That was, I think, one of the surprises. I
was happy about that.
And then we go. John Henry goes with Kat. I think a lot of people were surprised. I was not. And that leaves Brayden. And Brayden's got his pick of, and now he was 100% going with Becca.
Yeah.
Right. And so that ultimately leaves Olivia, Davia, and Jen. He basically has no relationship whatsoever with Jen that we can see, or Davia. They both literally just got there.
Yeah.
So he ends up picking Olivia, which I don't think there was any surprise or shock here. And his comments were really nice and sweet. It, was more or less the effect of, I don't think I'm going to find love here, but I've got a rose and you're the person I want to save. This has nothing to do with you and me. It's you go and try and find love.
You deserve an opportunity.
You deserve an opportunity.
Yeah.
And that is, again, going back to what was it, episode 2? That's what Will was supposed to do to, I don't even
Olivia.
remember. Was it Olivia?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was Olivia. Yeah. No,
no,
whoever it was.
Olivia.
Yeah, Olivia. Whoever it was back then. And then he went, oh, that's right. He went with Mercedes or something like that. How did she get saved back then? God, it's been a
Peter?
long season. Did Peter? Oh, Peter saved her. Oh, that's right. Wow. My God, so much has happened this season.
I know.
2 hours times 7 is a lot of material.
Yeah, right.
Too much material. Let's go 90 minutes next season, guys. 90 minutes.
One thing that Brayden said in his face to camera interview was an acknowledgement that he left a relationship with a lot of substance, meaning Rachel, for a relationship with a little substance, and he's paying for it now. Mm-hmm. And so what do I say every week about Brayden? The honesty.
Yeah.
He's an honest guy. And that's probably wasn't easy for him to admit or say, but
we'll come to the realization
he knew it and he said it. He took accountability for that. And so he, as you said, wanted to give the rose to somebody that wanted to pursue a substantial relationship. And I thought that was the right thing to do.
Yeah, I completely agree. I like Brayden's call. I think that was really the only viable call. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so we get Olivia, one more round here, basically, and we'll see what happens. But so interestingly enough, the rose ceremony is not how we end this episode. Believe it or not, it was only like the halfway point.
Oh my gosh, I touched the screen and there were still 30 minutes left, and I don't know how.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So so the next day, in what I'm going to call one of the more cowardly acts on this show, John Henry finally comes up to Olivia and he basically gives the whole, like, I feel bad about how things went down.
We missed a big thing before this. We missed the Kat and Olivia showdown.
Was it really a showdown? Was it that interesting?
Well, apparently Kat made such a big deal of Olivia putting her hand in her face.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think okay. So yeah, long story short, Olivia goes to confront. They all seemed a little drunk at that point.
They seemed very drunk.
There's a drunk episode. It felt like, yeah, it felt like Olivia just went down to have a conversation. I don't know why, like, no sober person would have, because Kat's not reasonable and there was nothing to gain from it. So I really thought that was, Olivia. I don't know, maybe she was pushed by production to do it or something like that, but it was just kind of a stupid thing to do to start with. So I kind of blame Olivia for that one. Kat responded and reacted exactly how we would. I do nothing wrong. I'm not taking accountability for anything. You're a toxic, person.
Projection.
Yeah. And then she carries it on and she talks about it for days and days on end, along with she's still talking about her birthday. And so yeah, for me, that was a snooze. I didn't think it was that big a deal.
Yeah. The only thing is it's like yet another time that Kat plays the victim when she is the villain. It's like, that is her brand on the show. She starts confrontation behind the scenes or starts trouble behind the scenes and then can't deal with the consequences and the confrontation that comes along with it. And then plays the victim. And it's like getting so tired and old. This is like the 4th episode that this has happened, 4th out of 7. Like, I'm exhausted.
Yeah. And actually in one of her, peace tour video interviews that she did, she was actually asked specifically about her relationship with the other people on the beach. And she basically said that the person she had the least amount of relationship with was Olivia. And so she didn't think she owed it to her or anything like that. And she wouldn't even communicate or talk with her, didn't really want to hang out with her at any point in time unless she absolutely had to. And that was sort of her justification for any and all of her behavior. Again, we can debate and quibble about whether or not Olivia was owed something.
But what does that say though about, the beach is small. There are 17 people, 18 people on the beach at a time.
Yeah.
It's not like it's a huge beach. Like, and so what does that say?
And they're both day oneers.
Actively go out of your way to avoid someone. Meanwhile, the entire beach is cheering on Olivia. So that again reflects your character. Are you that cliquey? Are you that standoffish that you can't even be cordial or be friendly? Like that is concerning.
Yeah. And you mentioned that everyone roots for Olivia. Everybody on that beach roots for Olivia constantly, and nobody roots for Kat. In fact, most of them root for her to actively fail and go home. And so it does draw into stark contrast when we saw the Sean interview after he got eliminated a few weeks ago, where he said, "Oh no, Kat's great." And I said, "Yeah, I think he's just saying that because he's not going to ruffle any feathers and he just wants to be buddies with everybody." There's no evidence that we're seeing to support Sean's take that Kat's just editing.
Right.
There's a lot here, and we see it all in the face to cameras of all the other contestants.
Yeah, well, even we saw a lot more exposure in terms of their conversations like with one another, where they were talking about Kat's claws coming out. Tanner was saying she's a problem, like amongst their conversation. So it's, again, not just an edit, not just something that the producers are making them say, like coaching them to say somehow, or coercing them to say. Like, this is in unscripted conversations as they observe what's going on.
Mhm.
And so, again, there's only so much that you can hide behind an edit. Do I believe some of it's an edit? Sure. I believe that they are strategically showing us unfavorable behaviors of Kat. We're probably not seeing an entire side of her. And that doesn't mean that these things didn't still happen.
And these words are still coming out of her mouth.
Right.
Like, can't take those back.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. But anyway, I apologize. I cut you off when you were talking about the John Henry thing.
The day after the rose ceremony, in what I viewed to be one of the real great acts of cowardice on this beach, is that John Henry pulls Olivia for a conversation. And the conversation basically goes, hey, I'm really sorry. I feel bad about how things went down. And my first response was, you should have had this conversation last night if you really felt that way. But me observing you knows that you felt this way before the rose ceremony and she wasn't getting the rose. So you owed her that conversation when she like laid at your feet and basically said, I am here waiting for you.
Mm-hmm.
You owed it to her, if you cared about her, to say that she wasn't getting the rose so that she could make the rounds and see if somebody else, she could spark something up at that point in time during the cocktail hour. He was a coward and he thought that she was going home and he would not have to have this conversation. And this is the first time I'm going to be really critical of John Henry, because I like John Henry a lot, but this was a cowardly move.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
This just occurred to me.
Yeah.
We hear Kat say a couple of times, at least twice, maybe 3 times, I can't believe Olivia's still here. Or I'm so happy Olivia's going home because then I won't have the eyes on us. And so there is a part of me that wonders, again, Kat, you are awesome at what you do. I just, please.
What is it she's doing?
She's incredibly manipulative.
Sure. Okay.
Scratch that. I'm still a therapist. She's very resourceful. She is so good, so effective at that immediate garnering of affection and getting people to desire her. And so I could see
hanging on to it. That's a different story.
Exactly. John Henry doesn't appear to be the deepest puddle on the beach. And I could imagine Kat somehow saying something like, this is real conspiracy theory shit.
All right.
Okay. But I could see her somehow getting John Henry to string Olivia along so that she doesn't have an opportunity to get saved by anybody else, convincing him that it is easier for both of them if she just goes home and doesn't establish another connection on the beach. Like, I could almost see her puppeteering this whole thing along.
I mean, it's a little tinfoil hat, but that being said, John Henry is, as I've said in the past, he's a little bit of a dum-dum. Sweet guy. I like him a lot, but he is a little bit of a dum-dum. So I could see it happening. Yeah. I'm not co-signing that conspiracy theory.
It just occurred to me. It's a half-baked thought. I don't know. I don't know.
All right. I'm not co-signing it, but I'm also not scoffing it off the podcast and scrubbing it from the internet.
I mean, you're the most Machiavellian of them all. You called fucking Tyler.
Yeah. And I was
hip-hopping around. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was dead right on that. Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, we digress. So yeah, so he basically, you felt like his apology was kind of empty, and only because he now again has to reap the consequences.
Because she's sticking around. He's like, oh crap, I'm gonna have to have a conversation now.
Yeah.
And I gave Olivia a lot of credit. I thought she handled this conversation really well, very mature. I love that she called him out and was like, oh, so you came over here to make yourself feel better.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. And she didn't, and she delivered it in a way that was very just, appropriate, which I give her a lot of credit, because that could not have been an easy conversation to have.
Here's my criticism of Olivia.
Okay.
Her frustration with the situation with Kat and John Henry was 2-pronged. One, Kat is just rose hunting, basically, and the way that she's going about it is disrespectful. And 2, John Henry is such a good stand-up guy, and he deserves better than this woman. And so, number one, I'm with you, girl. Like, that wasn't cool. Especially as she said to Kat, like, and we talked about last week, like, you claim to be a girl's girl, and the way that you went around that was not very feminist of you in that sense. But Olivia it is not your responsibility to take care of John Henry. John Henry is a grown ass man, and he's going to have to, again, face the consequence of his actions. It is not up to you to teach him something in a breakup. It is not up to you to protect him. That I find is one of those things that people do in a breakup that is, it seems like it's altruistic, but is very self-motivated. And so that she said it the day before or the day of the rose ceremony, and during this breakup. And I just felt like we could have done without that. That's none of your business, essentially.
Yeah. She also put him on a pedestal repeatedly, saying how special he was. And I know how much you love putting people on pedestals.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, she did. And I think that also made her kind of have her blinders on to the fact that, again, she made him out to be like the best guy that she's ever dated or whatever. And so therefore she wasn't really seeing the signs, as you were saying, that he was not really into her or that he was flawed.
Yeah, I do want to touch on this for one quick second, because I want to give a little bit of the male insight into this. Her going on and saying to him directly, "You're this such a special person," and all this other stuff. There's basically only two ways that guys are going to respond to this, right? If you have a particular egotistical, narcissistic type of individual, and I'm not using that diagnostically, I'm just using that kind of casually, those terms. If you have somebody who's more egotistical and narcissistic, then they are going to eat that up, and they will want to keep you around because you are elevating them. This is selfish. This is not love. Mm-hmm. This is just like Jess making those 5 statements from before, right? That's not the type of guy that you want to hang on to. Really, really good guys, like a Gary Turner or something like that, will oftentimes actually shy away from a girl like that. And the reason that they will shy away from that girl is because it puts such an unbelievable amount of pressure on them to live up to the standards. And a good guy who wants to live up to standards, if you put him too high on a pedestal, he will feel like he is not good enough for you, and he will let you go out of his own anxiety or feeling like you could do better than him. Those are your 2 major outs. The narrow slice of the male population that is going to hear that and respond in a way of like, oh, great, she likes me, and I'm capable of living up to that, and I'm not worried about it. That's a very tiny slice of the population. Yeah. So ladies, what I could say is, don't say that to men. If you say that to a man and he sticks with you, he's probably not somebody who's going to treat you well. And the guys that will treat you well are probably not sticking around because you just set the pedestal too high for them.
Okay, so I hear you talking about it like from a gender perspective of this is something that women do, this is how men respond to it. Ladies, this is what you should do. I think it's incredibly dangerous to put anyone on a pedestal, whether that's our parents, whether that's our significant other. It is bound to get any of us in a state of disappointment, because no one is that perfect. No one is that infallible. And so we're bound to feel heartbroken and feel disappointed when someone doesn't meet these unrealistic expectations that we have for them. And I'm thinking about ultimately why people do that. Like, why does someone put someone that they're dating on a pedestal? Why are they this untouchable thing? Like, why do they need to have them be in this protected space? And it could be for so many reasons. But ultimately, it also speaks to another way that we shy away from vulnerability, that we shy away from discomfort, that we shy away from being able to navigate through challenges. It is easier to imagine someone to be this perfect being high up here and us lowly down here. We're so unworthy. It makes us feel a lot more in control of our destiny and what happens. If they're perfect and things are going wrong, that could mean it's our fault, and therefore we have more control of it, or there's something for us to aspire to. And so in a lot of ways, when we put someone on a pedestal, it's a defense mechanism in order for us to try not to get hurt.
That's a really interesting take.
Thanks.
Yeah. Remember when you used to put me on a pedestal?
It's been a while.
Ouch. I still put you on a pedestal. Yeah, but I put you on a pedestal because you're 4'11". And if I don't, can't find you. You can't reach your cabinets. And with that, I think we have one more event that transpires, and that's the arrival of Michael. So give me the 10 seconds. My first interaction with him seems like a nice guy, but we literally get, I don't know, maybe 3 minutes with him. So who is he? What do we need to know about him?
Apparently, he's bad boy Ken from Charity Season.
What does that mean? It was Sean Goodboy Ken? Like I thought
Sean was double denim Ken
oh,
on Charity Season, and he won the Ken challenge, which is why he often referred to himself as a Ken doll, because he literally won. Of course, Charity came out this summer of Barbie, so they did a Barbie challenge, and it was a group date, and all of the men had to be different Kens, and so Sean was double denim Ken, and Michael was bad boy Ken. I don't remember Michael, but the only thing that not the only thing, one of the main things that sticks out to me is that I think he has 10 abs. Like, does he have an extra layer of ab? Like, I've never seen that many abs.
I once had a doctor explain to me the actual muscles that are in the abdomen and why you specifically have 6 abs, and you can't have multiple abs like beyond 6 because there's not like the muscle construction to actually have it.
I think he has it.
I have seen several guys on this beach, and I'm like,
maybe your doctor was trying to make
like
you
a
feel
7
better.
and an 8, right? like that looks like 7, that looks like 8. So I'm thinking that my doctor, maybe he just wanted to spare my ego a little bit, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. But so I truly don't remember him. That set of dates was at the beginning of Charity Season when there's like a zillion men, and like for most of the season I didn't know Sean's name was Sean. I only knew him as Double Denim Ken. It's just when there's that many contestants, it's so hard to keep track. So I don't know anything about him. The guys on the beach seem to really like him. He had great energy. He was very charismatic. He's a handsome guy, cute Southern accent.
Seems super personable.
Yeah, I mean, and Olivia noted it as well as I did, that he gave Olivia his Birkenstocks.
I mean, let's set some like,
is the bar in hell?
where is the bar here? Like, find me any decent guy would have done the exact same thing. Like, I don't understand these girls. The bar is so low.
So he takes Olivia for the chat first, and they seem to have some things in common. They seem to be vibing. And then, of course, he pulls Kylie and tells her that this is the conversation he's been really waiting to have. Of course, God, those thirst traps on Instagram are they're cashing in.
Aren't you so happy that I don't have any social media?
We can look at Kylie's Instagram. I do.
I have zero interest in looking at Kylie's Instagram. I have a life when we're done podcasting.
She knows her angles.
Okay, well, that's good. Do I know my angles?
Anyway, so we get left on a cliffhanger about who he's going to pick. And I, along with the other, Paradisers, really hope it's Olivia.
Yeah, and this is how you know that the rest of the cast is really, really rooting for Olivia, is that we got so many face to cameras basically saying, like, he better pick Olivia. She deserves it. He's a nice guy. So we're definitely being set up for that, but who knows? We'll see. So with that, shall we move on to grade the game?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm so conflicted on this. She gets an A.
D-. We have a tradition of doing the new arrivals first, but Michael literally just got there. We haven't seen anything other than 2 conversations. So I think we should save him for next week and count his new arrival as next week's grade the game. So who do you want to do? Who's
Tanner?
You? Tanner. Okay. I was hoping you were going to pick Tanner. All right, go for it.
No, you tell me. What do you grade him?
Oh, I mean, I cannot believe I'm saying this, but I'm giving him an A.
Mm-hmm.
Tanner, I can't believe this. So he moved on from Kat, managed to push Kat on John Henry. I mean, he was a contributor. He was solely responsible. He contributed.
He encouraged
it, pushed it along. So Kat's completely off the Tanner train. He went on, had a great date with Davia. He was the only one Davia cared about. Somehow, I don't know if it's good or bad, but he apparently wasn't that into Davia, despite her, colorful eyes, and manages to kiss every available girl in the cocktail hour,
mm-hmm.
and then lands on Rachel, who he made no promises to, owes nothing to, and is still effectively a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
Masterclass.
Yeah.
A for me. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you with an A. I mean, the women have the roses now, so he's gonna have to turn it up a little bit, and we see him doing that too in the part of the episode, like the last 30 minutes or so, however the fuck long it was, when it's the day after the rose ceremony. He goes right up behind Rachel, squeezes her shoulder, says, like, you want to go play, in the sand today, or whatever the heck he says. So he's like, he knows what he's doing.
He was working out with Olivia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
So
he's got more game than I thought.
he's hot. I mean,
that helps too. Yeah, that helps.
So yeah, he gets an A from me too.
Okay.
Glad to see it. I'm here for it.
I hate to do it, but I think we have to grade Kat again this week.
Kat, you're good, girl. Like, how could I not give her an A? She accomplished the mission. I mean, she did it. Could she have done it in a less aggressive way? Sure, but she got the job done. She's good. I mean,
yeah, it pains me, physically pains me. Like I want to vomit thinking about giving her an A, but there's just, it would be, was it professor malpractice to not grade her fairly here and give her an A. Hey, for all the reasons we've already talked about, great at manipulation. She accomplished the goal. She got the guy. She got the rose. She's now safe because she's now getting a rose. She's got the guy she wants for now. We'll see how long that lasts.
He was on her alternate list.
Yeah.
I mean, I gotta give it up. Honestly, I bow down. Good for you.
Yeah. Not much more to say than that. I really, honestly, I don't think there's really that many more interesting people that we could grade.
No, I think that's it for the week.
Just two, which is good because the last couple of weeks we've had more. So, Rose and Thorn time?
Sure.
All right. Where do you want to start? Rose or Thorn?
Okay. So my Thorn this week was the truth box. I thought the truth box had so much potential way back when Aaron S. was still here. I think that was his initial. Yep. It feels like ages ago. I don't know. But it felt like it could be so good and so instrumental. And look what it's gotten boiled down to. You alluded to this before. And so my Thorn goes to the disappointment that is the truth box. It just was poorly executed, poorly utilized. So we just don't need it. Like, why even bring it back?
I completely agree. I think it's just become sort of a trite contrivance, and with so much potential, it's actually become more of a frustration than it is an actual interesting tool at this point. Mm-hmm. Yep. What about you, Rose?
So all of these people on the beach have fantastic bodies, and they're drinking all day. And we watched Kat eat a plate of chicken nuggets and fries.
A giant plate of chicken nuggets and fries.
And, granted, I'm, 10 years older than her and my metabolism isn't what she is. Like, it often frustrates me when I see people with like such fit bodies and I don't really know why. And so my rose this week was to seeing Tanner and Olivia work out, because it helped validate the fact that they work really hard for their bodies to look the way that they do. And just appreciated seeing that. What about you? What's your rose and thorn this week?
So my rose this week is that we finally put an end to this overly contrived Eliza, Aaron B thing. I'm just happy that is over. Go back to being boring, please. This was just such a waste of time. The episodes are too long as it is. And if you're going to fill it up with that kind of plot, please just make the episodes 90 minutes is my thought. So, rose is that is over and done with. In terms of my thorn, it's kind of in the same vein. And I complained about this on Golden as well. The last couple of episodes have been so overly contrived. I hate contrivances, and I just want production to get back on track. Please, I should not feel the hand of the writer or the author or the producer. And I just feel like, I know in this show, obviously you're going to feel it a little bit. It's the nature of the show, but it just feels like, every single scene is just, you feel production's influence, and it pulls me out. Right. It takes away from the suspension of disbelief that I need in order to enjoy a show like this. And so that's my thorn, is that we've had now a couple of episodes in a row of heavy, visible hand. And I want that to stop a little bit. I'd rather have less interesting and less explosive plots if it came with less overt, contrivances, is how I would say it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get it.
All right.
But what I do have to say, though, is that this is probably my favorite season of Paradise for the last year's season, terrible. Season before, terrible. So this is actually a pretty good season. Like, I know you're feeling like it's really contrived, but like the last couple of seasons, you really feel like the arm of the producers, and you don't necessarily feel it like a third character on the beach like we have in the past. So I understand you saying that it feels contrived, but like as a viewer of this franchise, like it's actually not as
So my
bad as it could
standards
be.
are too high, is what you're saying?
Standards
Lower my
standards
standards.
are a little too high.
I just want to point out, you should be thankful that I had such high standards. It left me available for you.
Well, I'm so glad, because I love the way you compliment me. I love the way that you comment on my outfits. I love the way that you make me feel when you touch me. All of that good stuff.
Can I touch you more?
All right. Well, we've reached the end of this episode of Reactivity TV, the B-side. If you are watching The Golden Bachelor and you haven't watched part A yet of Reactivity TV, go check that out. We gave so many reactions to this week's episode of The Golden Bachelor. That was episode 7, Women Tell All, and the conclusion of the rose ceremony. We had a lot to say this week about the rose ceremony, and Chris came in hot, is all I'll say about Women Tell All. So go check that out if you haven't yet. We also have another podcast that you can check out. It's called Wishing You Well, and it's where me and my co-host Catherine, another licensed therapist, help you navigate your wellness journey, because living a well life is so important and yet so complicated. So we try to uncomplicate it for you each week on that podcast, and you can check that out on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, and on Spotify. And we will be back next week with another episode of Reactivity TV. It is Fantasy Suite Week on Golden Bachelor. So we'll be talking about that on part A, and we'll be back for episode 8 of Bachelor in Paradise as well. So be sure to check those out. You can also continue to follow along with us on Instagram at ReviveCFW. You can check out our website, revivecfw.com, and you can follow along with me on Instagram at Amy Albero LCSW. Thanks again. We'll see you next week. Bye.
See ya.